Welcome to Payment Matters, the show where we discuss all things healthcare payments. I'm your host, Jeff Lin. Thanks for listening in. Today, I'm joined by our special guest, Sarah Bettencourt, Treasury Manager, PCI and POS Services at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Thanks for being here with us today, Sarah. Sarah, would you like to share a little bit about your background and your experiences?
Absolutely. So first, hello, and thank you for having me. I'm honored to be talking. And so I've been with Vanderbilt University Medical Center for about 3 years now. Prior, I was with a university up north, and I had started with getting into dabbling a little bit with the PCI payment card industry at that point. So then I came down here, I finished my MBA, I got my PCIP, which is the professional payment card industry certification, and then now I'm just helping Vanderbilt along the way to
That's great.
Go further.
That's exciting. This is great here. And for our listeners who may not understand what PCI is, and really why is this so important, can you talk about what is PCI?
Absolutely. I go through this every day. Yeah. People are like, what is PCI? So a PCI, that is a council of the major credit card brands that came together. They all oversee the same standards, regulations, type of stuff. So anyone who processes a payment should be adhering to PCI. And we hope they do, because there can be fines and fees that are associated with it if you are found not compliant with PCI, which is something each organization would have to hand in on an annual basis to either their bank or financial institution. So PCI is a huge, huge matter. It's only going to become more known to people. Everyone uses credit cards these days: Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express. Those are, not many people carry cash anymore, so we want to make sure that they're protected, and everyone is doing their due diligence and making sure that it's safe.
Yeah. So and you talk about safety, and I especially as patients and consumers are using that to pay their healthcare bills. So talk to us about what is P2PE.
So P2PE is point-to-point encryption. Now, I do want to just kind of put out there's point-to-point encryption as well as endpoint-to-endpoint encryption. And there's a little bit of difference. So there's the validated solution, which is the P2PE, which is what we've opted to go with and we're implementing. And that is more of where there's a lot more controls that are in place for our patients just to protect their matter, where the other solutions, they're great, they are, but they don't have as many controls down in place where it's implemented straight from the foundation per se, to go from there. So for us, we looked at our patients and knowing that they're already in there, there's every day there's breaches out there of health information, credit card information. We wanted to make sure that from the foundation up, that they felt safe processing and giving us additional information. I mean, they're already giving us all their health information, then to say, hey, let's have all your credit card information and financial information too. I mean, it's not the first thing customers want to jump up and down about in the hospital. So that's the main thing, is we really wanted to make sure we had a solution that is validated, it's in place, there's certain standards that we must adhere to, and we're actually attesting to that we've done to our financial institution as well as to other providers.
So and I think this is interesting here as you talk about P2PE, which is point-to-point encryption. So my local, I think my local pharmacy and even my local where I go buy some sandwiches, I see it's been encrypted. And so, do you mean what does that mean exactly? What am I actually encrypting?
So what we're encrypting is the actual card number. So when the person, depending on your solution, and the one we've opted to go with, is basically the card is encrypted at the point of touch. So we're generated kind of a token. We own part of the token and the bank owns the other part. So there's no one person that has a whole number, and it's really just a randomized numeric and alphabetic number put together of characters. So if someone were to steal information, there's nothing to steal. It's completely jargon. It's
Got
nothing. Versus where the old systems, the credit card machines actually would take the actual card number and store them in the system. So they're actually capturing all your sensitive information.
Got it. So this is really keeping the patients as they pay for their copays or their prior balances. You're keeping that information. You're able to process the payment, but keep it all secure.
Yes.
End to end. You called it end to end encryption before, but you keep that card data secure.
Yes.
From that point.
Yes.
Great. So how does from that high level perspective, how does that really benefit an organization if they are P2PE validated?
So how it really benefits is a lot of the controls that are in place to be considered a validated solution are already in place within your organization, or should be, I would hope, with your security team and the infrastructure that you have. So control-wise, you're able to reduce your requirements that you have to provide out, and it goes from some 300 plus requirements down to about 30 requirements. So it's a huge decrease in what you're being required to provide to financial institutions and even the PCI DSS Council.
Got it. So in this, it really, when you're doing a P2PE validated solution, what I'm hearing is it reduces the overhead or the burden to answer those 300 questions down to, you said 30?
About 30, yes.
Wow, so that's a pretty significant decrease there.
It is. It's a lot of work that you have to put in up front. And like I said, it's really about building from the foundation. It's not bits and pieces that you can fit in and say, oh, we want a validated solution. Let's try to fit it into here or this system. You have to be willing to put the work in, work with your security team to ensure that everything is built in from the ground.
Yeah, so you talk about, it sounds like you guys went through this major process. Sounds like you were very involved in the implementation of the P2PE validated solution, and you clearly have firsthand experience of this when you're doing this. Can you talk about what prompted, what was the key driver or that was moving this project forward?
So the key driver for us was we were one entity with the university. So at Vanderbilt University, we also had the medical side and the traditional education side. In 2016, they decided to legally split. Upon splitting, obviously there's a huge difference between patient care and education. So at that point, we were looking at different medical systems that were in place. It was finally decided that they were going to put Epic into place for our patients and for, our customers. So knowing that we were putting in a new system, I had to relook at all our contracts, all the banking. I wanted to make sure that we did our homework and really got into everything and said, okay, if we're already putting in a whole new system, why don't we make it, PCI Nirvana, essentially, and just, really look at what we could do for our patients, because we want them to feel secure and safe and obviously return and make their co-payments. That's, the whole game of it. So we wanted to give them a solution by looking at, okay, if we stayed where we are, how much cost is going to be involved with having to maintain machines. EMV liability was just coming around at that point, so a lot of our merchants already had to upgrade their machines. So what I wanted to do was say, okay, if you're going to invest this cost into a machine and product, and it's still not safe and secure, why not go the little extra step and let's get something that we know is going to be reliable for us, as well as safe and secure. And that's how I kind of started getting the buy-in and getting it kind of into, senior, or the C-suite, you could say, getting it up there and getting people thinking, okay, well, we're already doing a whole health system, so why not use it to our advantage and have it integrated and start, looking at the workflow of how things are being done to, become more efficient.
And that's great. It sounds like it was a pretty major undertaking. Where are you today?
Today we're pretty much closing in. We're on our path to completing. We have about 600 users right now that are using the actual validated DynaPro devices that are encrypted. They've all been placed. They are integrated with the Epic system. So now when we call them PSR, which is a patient service representative, takes a copay, first of all, the patient is able to do it, NFC, Apple Pay. They have everything available to them for credit card processing. But the PSR now is able to have it integrated, so when at the swipe of the card, it automatically hits the Epic system, and it all works together in a seamless process. So it goes right through. It's very efficient. It's patient satisfaction, is increased because less time is spent trying to figure out, did the credit card go through? What's going on? Did it batch out? Especially with the old system of having on a batch style where all the credit card information, as I explained before, is being stored in the machine and then being pulled on a daily basis, all the data to the bank. So it's definitely more satisfaction for patients, for employees.
And so you said that's great news, because that's the results we always look for when you have a project here, right? You talk about these 600 users, or were these all users at their registration or their call center? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have quite a combination. Obviously, Vanderbilt University Medical Center, we're one of the largest employers in Tennessee. So we have call centers. We have about 300 clinics throughout Tennessee, even spreading into Kentucky, Alabama. So we have lots of methods coming in, and that was another, is we wanted to make sure that the patient could feel secure making their payment, whether it was over phone, online, or in person. So by ensuring this validated solutions in place, they can pay in any route and know that their financial information is safe. So, for instance, with the call center, they call in, they're directed. We're implementing an IVR right now, which is an integrated voice recognition system that will help further protect all of their data by using the keytones and removing information, essentially, to the hackers out there that are looking to steal this stuff.
Right. Yeah. So when I look at this, that's great, because that's where you want to get those hackers out. We hear all this talk about healthcare breaches occurring all the time here, and as you kind of look at this, as if another institution was looking into P2PE validated solutions, any major lessons learned?
So there are quite a few lessons learned. We need to make sure that everyone is communicating effectively. A lot of teams don't realize how they affect another area of the organization, and I think that was one of the biggest lessons we learned, especially with the Epic being placed when we split from the university. The Epic team had thought what we had in place already for payment processing would work and was sufficient. It was not. So we were kind of like thrown out 2 months before the deadline, saying we need to have a whole new solution in place, which is why I was like, if we got to do this, we're going all the way now. We're going to that PCI Nirvana. We're going to go all out. So there was definitely lessons learned, a lot of communication. Knowing the scope of the project, I think, is another huge thing. Is there are so many parties that need to be involved, from your IT to even just a PSR, a patient security rep. Because, you got the person on the front end that's physically face-to-face with a person taking a payment, and then we go all the way to the back office, back end, we're looking at, the phone lines, if it's analog, if it's data, how the information is flowing through the system. So making sure you have all the right players on board.
That's great. One of the things that we've heard stories about was called when you have a lot of 600 users using something, we call it the change management is hard. How did you approach change management? Because there's new devices, new ways to do things, and
so throughout the whole organization, change was happening. It was straight across the board, from the systems they're using, how they're doing stuff. So a lot of it, what I did is we did a lot of reach out. So one of my employees went out into the field a lot and actually, met with them. We made them what we called PCI binders, where we put little tips and things to look for tampering, just simple little basics. So anyone that is new to it, or having to implement a change, had everything, the education, the material there to reference, because I think that's where a lot of people resist change, because, well, first, a lot of people don't like change. We know that. But it's also because they're not educated and they don't have any resources to go back on. When you start providing resources and material to them so they have it on hand, it becomes a little easier for change to be manageable. And we found that as a success with a lot of our individuals out there, our users, is we just made sure to keep pushing it out, letting them know that we're here to support them, help them. That, and we listened to them. We wanted to make sure that they understood, let us know what's missing so we can make sure to get that resource out to you, or that training material, whatever it would be.
One of the things that I've heard just anecdotally is the cost of the devices are replacing this is so expensive. How did you, number one, approach that? But also, is there a business case? Is there a bigger business case that other hospitals should be looking at?
So, anyone in the healthcare industry, I would say, yes, there is going to be a cost. Straight up, there's going to be cost. Time, investment, pulling people from different teams, it's a big cost. Where I was able to really make it a success for, getting it out there and let's do this now, was that we were already making such a big change with our health system that the investment up front would be well worth it looking in future years. So, for instance, when we looked at cost, our merchants had to replace the machines anyways. They have a life cycle. They're going to have to be replaced. So why not just go a little further, make sure we got a device that's going to last and going to protect the patient more so, where we can then increase our revenue and collection rate, So it kind of, we were able to buy in to the upper management by saying, hey, we're going to put out this investment. Yes, it's a big number, but then hopefully if everything goes according to plan, then we should see an increase in our revenue in collections, because we're able to keep the patients feeling safe, secure, knowing that we're looking, for the best there is. And I think that makes people feel more comfortable. I mean, for me, it does. If I'm making a payment to someone who I know has gone above and beyond, I'm more willing to keep up making my co-pays. So that's a huge thing. I think health systems need to look at, hey, if we're implementing a change, let's look at the whole picture, see what we can do, because like I said, we also, time was saved going forward. On the old systems and with the credit card machines, when a co-payment was made, they'd have to manually type in the amount, swipe the card, then they had to batch it out at the end of the night, put it into the health system still, saying
Manually.
Yes, manually, saying that, hey, okay, customer A made a payment. With it being integrated, it all is seamless. So the customer swipes their card, everything goes through. There's a key, which then is even better because you know your information is safe. Your card number is not stored anywhere. So it was a win-win for us.
That's great news. And thanks for sharing so much of this. One of the last questions I ask is, so what's next?
Keeping it up and making sure to really, we want to, like I said earlier, knowing the scope of the project is huge. And that's where we need to ensure is we're continuously including our new clinics, and as we grow, which any health system is going to grow by the day we're opening new clinics, is we want to make sure that they're still in line with us as the medical center, and make sure that they're given the same resources and training material and education as what we gave out day one to, on our go live, or the D-Day that we did. So we want to just really make sure going forward that we make sure that all the information is still up to date, that we're still adhering to the latest changes, because technology changes on a daily basis. Keeping up with it is very difficult, as anyone would know, and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So you really just want to try to be ahead of the game, and that's what we're going to try to do going forward, is keep it out there, keep those devices, we got some on hand, and just keep our working relationship.
I'm going to ask you just one last question. Do you mind just giving me a brief overview about Vanderbilt and the medical center, the health system? Like, how big? What's the size?
So we have Vanderbilt University Medical Center has about 20,000 employees. So we're a good size. We're a medium size. I wouldn't say we're large or anything like that, but we are a good size. We have a few systems that are in place, which is kind of what also led us to the move to let's look at the point-to-point encrypted validated solution, because we want to start bringing all our systems together and integrate them. So, like I said, we're one of the largest employers in Tennessee. We have approximately about 300 clinics statewide. We also have multiple joint ventures and affiliates out there with other clinics and practitioners. And then we have multiple hospital systems, from children's to adult to psychiatric. So we have a vast little eclectic group, you could say. And we also have specialties. We got the helicopters that come in for trauma. So we have a lot. So it's definitely,
diverse.
Yes,
sure,
diverse.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we're looking for the best that we can offer to our patients for, to give them a safe, secure payment transaction. Because let's be honest, when you're at the doctor's or hospital, that's the last place you want to be. So having to stand there any longer than necessary because of a co-payment, you don't really want to do that. So we want to make sure that we make it as easy as we can for a patient.
Great. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences today at Vanderbilt. And really interesting to hear about P2PE validation and the impact it's had on your organization. And those are the payment matters we're tackling today. Thanks for listening in. Remember that you can listen in to this episode weekdays at 4:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 8:30 p.m. Eastern. If you have a comment about this episode or show, follow hashtag Payment Matters or connect with me on Twitter at Jeff B. Lin. You can learn more about my show at healthcarenowradio.com or at instamet.com. Until next time, I'm Jeff Lin.